Winter Bells by Penstroke. Chapter 4. Pictures. The next morning, Twilight and Shiny waited outside their parents' bedroom door, worried frowns on their faces. Velvet had almost been hysterical when they got her back home from the banquet. She was listing off all the things they would have to sell when they lost the house because of her. And she did this despite the fact that she and Nightlight had paid off their house mortgage years before. The house was theirs, and Nightlight earned enough for them to keep up with living expenses and taxes. But trying to convince Velvet of that was like trying to convince a snake to grow legs at Riverdance. The door to the bedroom opened. Nightlight slipped out. Then he pulled the door shut behind him. She didn't get to sleep until past midnight, he said before yawning. But I finally got her to calm down. A cup of tea and a family photo album. Works every time she's on a spiral like that. But, he continued, she's not going to be up for doing much today, which means we need to make sure everything that needs to be done gets done. Twilight, you know where your mother likes to keep her to-do list? Can you go check it and see what we need to do to be ready for tomorrow? Twilight nodded and quickly turned, walked away while Shiny turned to look at the bedroom door. I've never seen Mom this bad before. She had a spiral like this before you were born, Nightlight said as he stood with his son. She was so worried about being a mother for the first time. She was panicking because she was sure she was going to be a bad mother. You grow up hating her. Then you join a gang and end up getting locked up for 5 to 10 years. But, yes, it's been a while since he's had this one bad, Nightlight admitted as he turned. Shining followed. Soon the pair were walking back downstairs side by side. But finishing this book is really getting to her. I think she's afraid it's the end of her career. You know her. She's always wanted to write a real bestseller, one that every pony talks about. But time and again her books fall short. And I'm not saying we're not thankful for all the success he's had. It's because of that we're able to make a good home for you in Twilight. Your mother just always wanted to write that one book every pony would talk about. And after years of trying and failing, I think she's starting to think she isn't bestseller material. Nightlight put on a smile. But don't you worry about your mother too much. Give her some time to rest and recuperate, and she'll be back on her hooves, bossing us around like the world will end if we don't get everything done. Now come on, let's get some breakfast before your sister finds Velvet's to-do list. The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we shall not drift apart. The seasons welcome each year. Together we will face them without fear. We'll never fear. For long as our friends at our side, we can take what comes all in stride. Earth's ponies build and reap what they sow. White unicorns crowd with a magical glow. Pegasus to the skies high above. Equestria lives by our care and our love, care and our love. While different in form, our spirits are one. A circle of friends that will never be undone. The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we cannot drift apart. Though quarrels arise, the numbers are few. Laughter and singing will see us through. Will see us through. We are a circle of pony friends. A circle of friends will be to the very end. Cadence, Shining, Nightlight, and Twilight joined in the applause for the Bell Choir, who were performing at the center of Canterlot Market. The ponies had combined their voices with the ringing of numerous bells in the spectrum of sizes, creating a rich harmony of music that filled every inch of the market. It had been a beautiful performance, and each member of the family chipped in a few bells to the Bell Choir's donation basket. The performance, after all, was being done as a charity for the less fortunate of Canterlot. The quartet then turned and made their way into the market. They were on a simple mission: complete Velvet's to-do list. The list that would ensure the following day, Hearthwarming Eve, would go off without a hitch. They had already accomplished one of the tasks. They picked up another extension for the dining table, which would make it long enough to fit every pony. They also purchased a whole new set of plates and glasses along with some festive napkins. Now they were moving on to the biggest one on the list, which had brought them to the Canterlot Market. They had to go grocery shopping. With Twilight's friends arriving from Ponyville the next morning, Velvet had planned a large holiday luncheon. It would be the most ponies the family had ever had crammed into the home. That, however, was a trademark of the season, having way too many family members and friends stuffed into a single room. Okay, once we're done grocery shopping, all we have to do is pick up the pies Mom ordered from the bakery, and we'll be all set, Twilight said. She finished reviewing the checklist and tucked it back into her saddlebags as a small smile spread across her lips. Mom is going to be so happy when she sees we got everything taken care of. Twilight, you wouldn't mind if we stopped for lunch too with you? Cadence asked, with an embarrassed smile. All of this walking has made me hungry. Twilight chuckled a little and nodded. Sure, we can grab something while we're here at the market and eat at the tables by the bio choir. I don't know about the rest of you, but I wouldn't mind having the chance to sit and listen to them a little longer. They were making such beautiful music. Oh, come on, Twilight. You can admit it. Cadence said teasingly. You just want them to hear sing Frosty the Snow Pony. I do not! Twilight protested, though the blush on her cheek said otherwise. I don't know, Twilight, Shining said as he shifted a little. He was tasked with carrying the new plates and glasses they had bought, which wasn't the lightest of lows. So when we tried to get back as quickly as we can, we did leave Spike alone with Nyx at the house. Shining, Spike isn't the little baby dragon he used to be. True, he's not really old enough to plan a bachelor party, but he's old enough to keep an eye on Nyx while we're gone. After all, he falls into regularly in Ponyville when I need to run errands. Twilight laughed and shook her head in disbelief. I still don't know what Celestia was thinking when she asked Spike to plan your bachelor party. And besides, your mother is there as well. Nightlight pointed out. She may be recovering from a spiral, but if something goes wrong, she'll hop right out of bed and help them. I promise. Shining huffed, but nodded his head in agreement, and focused on his part of the grocery list. The faster they shopped, the sooner they could eat. The sooner they could eat, the sooner they'd leave. The sooner they left, the sooner they could get back. The sooner they got back, the sooner he could make sure Nyx hadn't done something to Spike or to Velvet. Velvet lay back onto the bed, eyes following the subtle brush strokes left behind from when they had painted the ceiling. Next to her lay the family photo album and an empty cup of tea, both from the night before. Natalie hadn't been able to calm her down until after midnight, and even then she hadn't really gotten to sleep until about 3. After that, she awoke from 2 nightmares, one at 5 and another at 7. The first had been a nightmare about buried beneath books, the second having everything, home, family, taken away because Print Press took away her contract. After those dreams, she hadn't been able to fall asleep again for another hour. It was almost a near-perfect checklist for the worst night's sleep she endured in decades. She had finally awoken of her own accord at approximately 11, but had not yet found the motivation to get out of bed. She let her gaze wander to the clock that sat on the nearby dresser drawers. It was almost noon, half the day wasted. She'd never be able to finish her to-do list in time. Twice the friends would arrive, find the table bare. They all had to go out to some cheap fast food place for their heartwarming evil lunch. The Twilight's friends would stop liking her, and she lose all confidence in the lessons of friendship she had been learning. Celestia would then disown Twilight as a student. The Discord or somebody else would come in. Selma's mind popped out of a spiral. She sat up in bed just a little, and looked to the door as it slowly cracked open. For a moment she tensed, seeing a pair of serpentine eyes peek in from her dark doorway. But since she was able to relax more when she heard Nyx's familiar voice coming from the hallway. Velvet, Spike and I made some lunch. Do you want some? At first, Velvet was going to turn Nyx away. Her stomach, however, rebelled against her mind, and in that moment gave a loud, pleading grumble. Velvet blushed a little and set her hooves on her belly, trying to quiet its pleas. But the damage was already done. Nyx had taken a step into the room, revealing she had a tray resting on her back. It was simple. Sandwiches and a glass of water, but it did look pretty good. Yes, Velvet said, finally admitting defeat to her stomach. Please, just bring it over here. Nyx nodded, noticing the door open a little further before carrying the tray into Velvet's bedside. Velvet, in turn, gently levitated the family photo album further down on the bed and set her empty cup of tea on the nightstand. Then she picked up the tray up from Nyx's back and set it down beside her bed. Yes, lettuce, celery sandwiches with cucumber, Nyx said with a smile. Spike said they're your favorite. Velvet gently picked up the first of the 2 sandwiches, spreading the bread apart and smiling. You even cut the cucumbers the long way, like sandwich pickles, just how I like. Velvet closed up the sandwich and took her first bite. She could taste just a hint of hand dressing beneath the lettuce as well, spread thinly like a sheet of frost on the bottom of a bread. Yep, Spike remembered exactly how he liked her sandwiches. The little dragon had always been such a wonderful helper, wanting only to make her smile. Still, as Velvet opened her mouth to take a second bite, she glanced to the side. She saw Nyx was just standing there, watching her eat. "Nyx, dear, what are you doing?" Velvet couldn't help but ask. "Spike wanted me to bring the dishes back down when you're done, so you can clean them." "Well, okay," Velvet said, opening her mouth again to take a second bite. But still she was unable to. There was just something slightly unsettling about having somebody watch you eat, chew, swallow, and dribble crumbs because the bread had been dragonfire toasted. "Nyx," Velvet finally said, "maybe you could do something besides watch me eat, like—" Velvet glanced around the room, trying to find something to distract the young filly. Her eyes then settled on the one thing that was both easy access and could provide a good distraction. "How about you look at this?" Velvet said, levitating the family foam into the air. Nyx smiled, and with a strong bound led them onto the bed. Velvet had to momentarily panic and grab the gas wire, was starting to fall from the force of Nyx's landing. Still, Nyx was oblivious to the mess he had almost created. She was still smiling up at the photo album, an eager look in the eyes. "You have one too?" "What do you mean?" Velvet asked, as she gently set the glass of wire back down onto the tray. "A scrapbook! Chloe showed me the one you made for her. Does this one have pieces of spice egg in it like hers?" Velvet chuckled a little as he floated the book closer to her bed. "No, Nyx, but that's because this isn't a scrapbook. This is our family's photo album. We only use this for pictures. I keep a scrapbook for every pony else, but only really get special pictures given in here." Velvet picked her glass of wire off the tray again, before motioning to Nyx to come closer. As Velvet predicted, Nyx bounded down the bed, sitting sideways on the mattress that would have likely tipped the glass over. Still, as soon as Nyx settled in next to Velvet, sitting on one of the pillows at the head of the bed, while Velvet surveyed the photo album in her magic. Velvet turned to the first page, using a hoof to point out a single picture where Nightlight was on bended knee, presenting Velvet with the engagement ring. "My mother kept an album like this her whole life. It had so many pictures in it, but she always kept this first picture slot empty. It was always meant for the picture she could never have. A picture from the night my father proposed to her. And while I don't remember doing it, either I or my mother must have told Nightlight that story." Velvet smiled as he gently touched the aged photo. "Yes, he had to have heard it from one of us, because the night he proposed he made sure a photographer was there. Then he brought this album for me, and put the picture in its first space. It was like being asked to marry him all over again." Velvet let her hoof linger on the photo for just a little longer before pulling it back. Then she gently turned the page to another photo. "This here's Nightlight is my wedding day. He was so handsome in tuxedo, even his bow tie kept getting crooked. I swear, I still think he was doing it on purpose, just so I could get close enough for him to steal a kiss." Velvet picked up one of the sandwiches and took a bite, chewing slowly as he let Nyx look over the photos. "Where was the wedding?" Nyx asked as he began to notice a constant theme to the picture's background. "It looks like you're all standing outside." "Well, we were," Velvet said. "We had our wedding at the Waterfall Garden. It's a park right next to where the largest and Canterlot waterfalls pour over the edge of the city. It has one of the most beautiful views in all of Equestria. Maybe not as fancy as having the wedding in Canterlot Castle, but I wouldn't trade it for anything." Velvet took another bite of her sandwich and turned the page. She then chewed and swallowed quickly, before pointing to another picture. "This was Nightlight and my first apartment together. It was a little place. I don't know how we lived there for as long as we did, but it was the best we could afford. I was still trying to get published at the time, so he was the only one making any real money. Oh, and this is a picture from when we first moved to this house," Velvet says, he pointed to another photo. "We thought we were moving into a mansion after living in that small apartment so long, but, well, we needed the room to grow." "What do you mean?" "Well, take a closer look at that picture," Velvet said, pointing to herself. "Do you notice anything?"